Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. So today I'm joined by the amazing Jake C. Young and the beautiful Casey Rhe'anne. Jake, how you doing today, man?
Hey man, I'm really good. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, super stoked to have you. And how about you, Casey? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on here. I'm excited.
I'm super stoked to have you both. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You guys are from the upcoming Daylight to Dark. Now, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But first, Jake, sometimes you're credited as Jake Eastwood, and you're one of the few actors to have a career as diverse as your own that you've had. What I love about this is Jake Eastwood. Where did that come from?
So that's a long story. I had a manager when I first started doing acting, and it was under her recommendation, due to my background and my strong resemblance to a very other famous filmmaker that I've spawned a lot of creativity off of, and we are distantly related. So that's kind of where that came about. That was just one of those, hey, we should you should totally use Jake Eastwood as your stage name, just because it'll help you with so many different diversities in this business. It kind of works to be able to work under different guys and have different hats you can wear multiple times throughout your film career. So that's kind of where that name came from.
Man, you must have been feeling pretty lucky, punk.
I always tell people, make my day. So it's
Yes, dude. But you also, this isn't your first rodeo, so to speak. You're known for your role as Cowboy Vampire Hunter in the Jonah Helsing film. But in this film, more of a major lead role in this one rather than a cameo role. How did you get involved with this project?
So I had actually I've been looking to make a film kind of like this for a while. I kind of had some ideas, some different thoughts and opinions of how I wanted to go about this. So this ultimately it had just kind of become something that I was wanting to do as far as like a Western vampire style deal, and obviously Western for the obvious reasons. And as time went on, I was introduced to a really good friend of mine now. His name is Roland Jarrett, who actually wrote the 1997 movie American Vampire Story. It starred Adam West and Carmen Electra. And it was a pretty big cult following film of its time, real indie film. So as I got speaking with him, we kind of spoke together, and I gave him a treatment of what I had, and he cleaned it up, and he turned in what we now have as Daylight to Dark, which is an unofficial sequel to that film.
That's awesome, man. And like I said, this is something that's really your baby. And then you bring in Casey. So, Casey, you are no stranger to horror as well. Daylight to Dark, Lazarus Games, The Art of Killing. What spawned you getting involved with this project?
So I had reached out to Jake a couple of years ago, letting him know that if he had ever had like auditions to let me know. And he sent me a message. I was actually at my mom's, so I didn't have a way to film anything. And me and my husband like quickly got everything together. He's awesome. He always like helps me with all of that stuff. And it was super like last minute, like getting it all like together, but I'm glad everything worked out. And once I read the script and I saw like that it was like he just said a sequel to the other movie, I was like, oh my gosh, that's super cool. Because I recognized some of the faces and everything. I was like, this is gonna be really fun.
And this is one of those things where the way that you guys talk about it, it seems like you guys had an amazing time on set. So, what was your time like on set, Casey?
Oh, it was super fun. Everybody got along really well, and I kind of felt like the banter, especially between me and my brother, like it just kind of came naturally. There were lots of laughs and stuff like that. It was just an awesome time.
And another big thing about this too is, um, you were able to secure a very big name in the horror genre Tuesday night. Jake, what was it like working with Tuesday?
Oh man, working with Tuesday. So where do you start? Working with a legend like that. I mean, you're like, oh my God, this is Kristen Parker. From Elm Street 4 and stuff like that. It was a really cool experience. Getting to work with her and getting to say, hey, she was in a film that I directed, and just
Right.
have her on board. And her and I, we have a scene together in the film. We actually have several, but she was just really down to earth, really easy to, really easy to work with. Really good actress, really good chemistry between her and myself as far as what came off on screen. And ultimately, I was very proud of the way that turned out. And man, like Casey was just saying, the guy that plays her brother. I feel like those two, they played that role so well. We actually, I had some people come on set one day, and he said something. He said, "I'm looking for my sister," and I kid you not, until the end of the shoot, they did not know they were not brother and sister. That's how well they were getting along on set. So it was really great.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. So that actually
I saw your
happened.
face. I was like,
Yeah, that actually happened. So, yeah, I had a few people that showed up and they kept saying, Drake kept saying, "Where's my sister? Where's my sister?" Like goofing around. And like at the end, when I was leaving the shoot, because we shot most of this, it was primarily done, a lot of it was like a one location deal. We changed up the room a couple different times. And when I was leaving, they were asking me, we're like, wait, so were they not actually brother and sister? And I was like, no. I was like, but you couldn't tell, right? They're like, I know, man, they were great. So that was really cool that they were able to pull that off. Because very rare do you get, just so lucky that you get all those people that pull their roles off perfectly.
yeah. And, I had my ear to the ground on this a little bit because one of your producers I've known for a really long time, Kenny Scott Guffey.
Mhm.
And, I've worked with him in the past too, and he's just a great guy. And so, learning that he was a part of this project made me pretty happy too as a producer. And,
Mhm.
when you're doing a horror western, that's such I don't want to say an unknown and uncharted genre, but there's very, very few true western horrors out there. So Casey, what did you do to get into character for this film?
So my character, without giving away too many spoilers, is going through kind of a traumatic event in her life. So the main thing I did was get into the like mindset of she might not have been who she used to be. There's a scene with me and my brother where he's like, "Oh, why aren't you fun anymore?" So just kind of like being in that mindset of like something like awful just happened to you. But at the same time, you said it is a Western, and that is like a really cool take on it. So I had that in mind at the same time, and it was a lot of fun getting into it. Also sad, just because of her emotion.
And we are guys trying to keep this as spoiler free as possible. Um, so if it feels like we are being very dodgy or very cagey about certain questions, obviously we don't want to spoil anything for you guys. So kick me in the pants later for that one because I don't want to spoil this for anybody. Now, Jake, we've obviously seen, talked a little bit about Casey and what her character is.
Mhm.
With you being a director and then playing a role in the film, did you find it a little bit easier to wear both caps, or is it one of those things where you wish you would have, stayed in the director's chair or stayed in front of the camera?
So that's got to be no to both. So I've done several movies before in the past where I've acted in them and I've directed them. But when you're directing and acting in a film, you're gonna have some lossless in there. I mean, one side is gonna suffer a little bit over the other. But would I have taken myself out of this and stayed in the director's chair? Hell no, because this was so much fun to do, and this was so much just I had a great time doing this, and I mean, this is like the role I've been like dreaming to play my whole life, and I will drop a couple spoilers in here. There is a specific scene when my character is, going to do something and makes a reference to what we were talking about earlier. He says, go ahead, make my day, which was just like perfect. I was so glad that, we got to throw that in there. But no, man, I definitely would not have not been in this film. I really enjoyed the process of directing. Had some really good camera guys, so that made a lot of things a lot easier on me. But it's still it's a job. I mean, it's a lot of work. But ultimately, I feel like we had a lot of really talented people who kind of brought this thing to life.
And I love how you give credit to where we don't often get a lot of credit. Um, Cameramen,
Yeah.
camera people, the people that are working behind the scenes, production design, clothing design, set design, stuff like that. Those are often the unsung heroes. Those are your offensive tackles, so to speak, of
Oh my God.
filmmaking.
Yeah, dude.
And
Look, if it had not been for the crew I had on this, like, there's no way this would have happened. I mean, I'm talking set design. I mean, we had all kinds of different people. I mean, we bunch of us guys that were working on, our wives are in there helping out, doing makeup, things
nice.
like that. So, like, everybody that was a part of this, like, definitely, they took it over the top, which is, that's what you want, and you definitely got to give credit to those people. I can't stand up here and say, hey, I directed this movie and all this. No, like it was a team effort, and I definitely, I gotta give a lot of applause to those people, and even like Casey, she had a drive, like a really long drive to show up on set. She would show up, get ready, run a few lines, and then boom, we were right into it. And that's another thing about me that is my directing style, and I don't, Casey could probably tell you more on this. I've been told this a lot. Whenever every movie I've ever done and every movie I've done in the past, people are always so amazed at how much we get done in a shoot, like a shooting day.
Mhm.
Oh
Yeah, go ahead,
yes,
Casey.
yes, yes. That was the first thing I noticed. I was like, this is so productive because sometimes, you'll be on set for hours without filming anything. And I don't know, this set just kind of everything moved really quickly. Things got done when they were supposed to. It was very productive and it was still very, very quality work, which I think is super rare. So yeah, I love that about it.
There's definitely a difference between productivity and being rushed.
Mhm.
So the fact that you're still being as productive as you guys were being on a rush set, and I hate saying rushed like that. I don't mean it like that.
No, it was
Um,
rushed. It was definitely rushed. The original shooting schedule, I think it was stretched out for like 23 days, and I was like, no, no. And I was talking to a few guys, and they're like, okay, well, let's shorten it. And I was like, okay, 10. And they're like, what? And I was like, 10 days, that's all I need. Give me 10 days spread out over, a couple of months. And ultimately though, that's the way I like to make films. I like to get in there, get it done, and run with it. And it kind of helps keep everything on track. But every movie I've ever done, that's what everyone's always said. So they're like, either Jake is a really good director or he just treats his people like cattle. One of the two.
that's
Like
awesome.
I said, even though it was really productive, it didn't really feel like, everything was just being like kind of half done or anything like that. Everything still ended up being awesome. So
Mhm.
definitely did an amazing job on that.
Thank you.
And I love to hear that because, and this is just opinion, there's no fact to what I'm about to say. From just my knowledge, from being on sets, from doing this and all, over 4 years and all the interviews we've done, it seems like horror movies, especially, have the most fun on set. They're the most family oriented on set. And it seems like that you have the most fun in the darkest moments because that's how you keep it the levity of the scene. Like you said earlier, Casey, your character goes through some dark things. As an actor, that puts you in a dark place as well. You got to keep constantly thinking about these dark things your character's going through. You're living through these things. So in between takes, to have that much fun and to have that much levity on set sounds like it was a really good time for everybody. And that's actually my next question: what was your guys' experience on set? So you kind of beat me to that one, but real quick, guys, I do want to take a little bit of a break because we are going to now show you guys the trailer for the film. So check it out now. We have the trailer right here.
Like, I really want to miss the biggest music festival since Burning Man. Besides, you're the one that said this little back road would take us out of the traffic. Mason, we are lost, aren't we?
Of course not. I'll just ask one of these lovely yokels how to get back on the interstate.
Welcome to Wormwood.
Is there a mechanic in town?
We got the best mechanic in town for 100 miles. Good news, this is the last cabin. Yeah, she may not look like much, but she's got some good bones.
Look, this place has a history of attracting the misfits. There's nothing you can say that's going to surprise me.
I was at this con with my sister and met this really weird guy. I think he gave her some sort of drug that made her crave blood. Look, the other night at the con, did you have anything to drink?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had a couple of drinks with that guy, Vlad.
What he gave you was some sort of vampire concoction. You're a vampire.
A vampire.
Okay, look, dude, I need your help.
My family's been hunting these suckers here for over 200 years, right here in these parts. But now, thanks to you, I finally got him.
Well, you know that vampires aren't real, right?
They exist big time! And not only that, they frickin' live amongst us.
Tell Vlad that there's a new VIP in town.
If I can kill Dracul before she drinks human blood, I think I can save her.
Hey! Stop that sucking!
You know this guy?
His name is Vlad Dracul. I guess he wants her for his vampire bride, so they can repopulate the earth with baby vampires.
Is she gonna start sparkling in the sun?
Oh God, did you really just make a Twilight reference?
My sister, she's a different case. I need to help her.
You ready, kid?
Let's go kill some vampires.
It's you, Ben Herman. Ben Hammer.
Van Helsing.
Him too.
Oh, God, what's that smell?
Death. You get used to it.
And I thought you said she's the vampire queen.
Oh, sweetie, I am the vampire queen.
Daylight to dark.
Is this even legal? How do you even fit all that in your bag? Isn't that garlic? Dude.
Oh. Please. Stop talking.
Trick or treat.
Oh, that's right, it's Halloween. There you go. Yep, don't eat too much before bed. Happy Halloween. Where are his parents?
So now you guys have seen the trailer as well. So like we talked earlier, you know, doing a horror Western is a hard thing to capture because we don't get a lot of true Western films anymore. So to make that and put it also with a horror spin on it, I feel is such a unique thing. It's one of those things where hopefully it continues to build. I love to see horror go in new directions. And if there's a new direction we could take horror in, let's do it. This is a lesser known version of that. So, Casey, we talked about your character and what it was like on set for you. What would you say people can expect out of this film?
Well, lots of fun. One thing that I didn't know when I was first like going into it is how much comedy is in it. Like the storyline is amazing, but it also has so many comedic moments in there. And it's also kind of a story about siblings and the bond of family in a way. So yeah.
A lot of times I feel like, especially when you're talking about, you know, familial bonds, to me personally, the best horror films, whether it be a horror Western, a horror comedy, you know, whatever, is when you have a real family drama and you put the horror around that. You know, when
Mhm.
you have it all about the family and you wrap that up in horror, that because then I feel so connected to these characters and I want nothing more than for them to be okay and for everything to be, you know, PG, which doesn't usually happen in horror films. So that makes it even more devastating when things go south. So, you know, sitting in the director's chair, Jake, I know that there's another amount of pride when you see a film like this done. You know, you like you said, you've done this before. When you're acting, you get that feather in the cap. When you're directing, you get that feather in the cap. When you see them come together at the same time, what's that like for you as a director and an actor to see this final product and knowing all the behind the scenes stuff that went on? What does it feel like for you to watch a completed project like this?
So a lot of times as a director, I kind of have to sit back and think about it because you almost don't get a chance to decompress that in the actual um, theater. So like at the premiere and everything, when everybody showed up, I'm not so much sitting there like, oh, I'm proud of this. I'm sitting there like sweating bullets, biting my nails because this is the moment when everybody is going to see everything you've been talking about. You're hyped up is coming to fruition, and now they get to see it and be their own judge of it. So it's actually very nerve wracking. But with this film, we've got so many different genres incorporated in there. It's more of a neo western. I kind of describe it sort of like Yellowstone, mixed with it's got a lot of comedy in it too, like Casey said. So it was nice to see the audience respond. They're laughing at the parts that are supposed to be funny, and the parts that are serious, you genuinely see them kind of like, like they're feeling what you put out. So it definitely makes a big difference whenever your audience is in tune, with what you're trying to put out there. But yeah, it can be really nerve wracking. And then, we also as this film goes, you're growing with these characters and those bonds between brother and sister, and what family's about.
That's awesome, man. And I know that when you have that first premiere, you know, that first
Mhm.
screening, and you're not even watching the screen, you're watching the people in the audience to see how they're
Right.
reacting to everything. You know, are they going to laugh at this part? Are they going to be scared at this part? Are we going to get a little bit of emotion from this part? So yeah, it's cool to see that no matter what you're doing, no matter where you come from, that's a universal feeling.
Right. Yeah.
When you have that premiere and you're just, you know, everybody around you, like, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Ding, and it happens. You know, that's a
Yeah.
great feeling.
So, like, one thing about this film that is a little different that I wasn't expecting was once the everybody seen the original cut, they were like, "Wow!" And then I go back and watch it, and I realize this movie is so long. It's actually 2 hours long that we ended up having to release a theatrical version, and we're going to have an extended director's cut coming next. So, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
you get a lot more little details in that extended director's cut. But ultimately, though, as a director, I was actually very happy with both versions. I think both versions, one doesn't necessarily take away from the other. If you're just a true lover of cinema and you really want to, get more involved in these characters, the director's cut has a little bit more, just details added in there, which I thought was, really cool that we're going to get to have both versions released.
Especially with an indie film like that. You know, it's not very often that you get to be able to go that in depth with your release, and that's a testament to the how great you guys did at making this film. That you're able to do that type of thing. So, super proud of you for that because, like I said, you that's a rarity. You know,
Thank you, man.
that doesn't happen. So, for this next question, usually I try to bounce the questions a little differently,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for this next question, Jake, you're going to get to be a cheater, pumpkin eater, and you're going to get to think about this one for a minute. But Casey, I get to ask you on the seat of your pants. As a big horror fan, obviously, I love horror so much. And my little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your
Okay.
favorite scary movie, Casey? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Well, I guess since he's asking, I have to answer. I just watched Fear Street, and I
Oh,
love all three of those and how they came together. It was kind of like a mystery that you had to solve throughout it.
yeah.
So I might go with that, but I also do love the Scream franchise. So
Mhm. Don't get a big head. It's not about you. It's about Nev. But yeah, I totally agree. Fear Street came out of nowhere and it rocked. Like it was so good and so good. In fact, they're doing another part. They're doing the Prom Queen one next on Netflix this year. So
Oh,
there's been no announcement officially yet if that's going to be a three-parter or if it's going to be a one-off. But I was so happy to hear that due to the success of Fear Street, that they're gonna do Fear Street Prom Queen next, which was my wife's favorite book of the Fear Street franchise. So that made me very happy. So yes, I know you can ask him too. Well, he's getting impatient, Jake. So he wants to know what's your favorite scary movie, Jake? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
So that is a really hard question for me, and I've had like 3 minutes to sit here and think on it. As a director, I actually think that I fall more in some of those really unknown ones that teeter-totter the line of horror and suspense. So I'm a really big fan of like the film Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and
Jake Gyllenhaal,
Big
baby.
Gyllenhaal. I mean that's a nail biter, and I mean
Dude.
that's scary. I mean that's probably got to be up there. But it's films like Alfred Hitchcock, like Psycho and Rear Window. I actually the movie I done before this was actually kind of inspired by Rear Window, but it's a lot of those type of movies that are just more on that line of suspense as much as as just horror. I find as a director, when you lean more towards just the stabby stab genre versus really adding that suspense in there,
Sure.
you can almost create your own genre of film when you mix the two. And it just works because we're not when you think about your own fears, it's not the thing that scares you is what you're actually scared of. The fear is what is really getting your blood pumping. It's the knowing of what is next. So yeah, that's probably got to be up there on my list is Prisoners.
I will physically fight to defend the fact that Prisoners is a horror movie.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Man, that movie's so. And David Dastmalchian, even though he has a small role in that film,
Yeah.
when Jake Gyllenhaal goes to his house, do you have kids? Like that whole scene is perfect. They, when they released the guy from custody.
Tell me what you did with him! Tell me! They didn't cry until I left them.
Oh
Right.
my God, dude, and like you said, from beginning to end, and every single character throughout this movie is so important and so impactful. Man, and a bleak ending, man, like the dark,
Right.
dark
Yeah.
ending. Yeah,
Every-
Terrence Howard has an amazing role in this movie. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it is such a good movie. This was a movie that, like, I remember we went to cinema to see it, and like we went home and like I hugged my kids. I was like, hey, so
Yeah,
let's go
right.
with it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're okay. I guess I don't mind spending all my money on school supplies because you're cool. But yeah, great film.
that is the one where the two little girls go missing in the beginning, right?
Yes.
It's really good. I didn't realize really in my mind that that's a horror movie, but yeah, with that description, it really is. It's very good.
It's
See,
it's
I'm one of
stuff
those
like
people that
that.
yeah, to me, horror is what you make it. To me, horror is the most impossible genre to lock down because when people are like, well, what makes a comedy? Well, it's got to make me laugh. What makes science fiction? It's got to be futuristic or spacey. What makes a horror? I don't fucking know. Like, you can't say it's got to have jump scares because the best jump scare of all time was in Pee-wee's Big Adventure with Large Marge. Like, that's the best jump scare ever, hands down. It's got to have blood. ER has blood. I don't consider that horror. Like it's got to have death. I've seen The Lion King, bro. Like to me, horror is it's a feeling more than it is a genre. And watching a movie like Prisoners terrifies me way more than watching Halloween or Friday the 13th.
Right.
Like that type of movie scares me to my core where I'm intrigued by Halloween. I'm intrigued by Friday the 13th. I'm like, yeah, hang him up like wall art or yeah,
Yeah.
shoot Vera through the eye with a spear gun, like in this movie, I'm like, those little girls better fucking make it.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
totally agree with you. I think that and that's a movie that from beginning, anybody in that movie could have won an Oscar and I would have been okay with it.
100%. Yeah. Like it's films like that and like Bone Tomahawk and like it's movies like
Western
that.
horror, man.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Old
it's like
Tomahawk.
It's those suspense things, the things that make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. That's horror. I mean, and it don't have to contain blood and guts. I mean, Prisoners has some blood in it, but I mean, like the feeling is what is like just all over you, and that has got to be hands down one of my biggest inspirations for just making film the way that I try to make it.
It's so good. Like,
Oh yeah.
like every scene in that movie, like even when they're in the car.
And why did you look for my fucking daughter? Fucking. Hey. Don't follow me. Hey.
But man, this could turn into a 6-hour speech on Prisoners, I swear to God. So I'm gonna cut that
Right,
off
yeah.
there. Now I did have an amazing time with you guys, and I want to let everybody watching know you can follow Jake and Casey on social media by clicking the links down in the description. I have all of their social media links down there, so make sure that you're following them to become a part of their lives as well. Now, they are going to have the release date posted on their social media when they have a release date available for the film. So you're going to want to follow them for that. And this isn't the last thing they're ever doing, guys. They're going to be doing a lot more after this. And so you can stay up to date on all the amazing projects they're going to be working on. Those social media links are down in the description. So, Jake, Casey, please don't go anywhere. I do have a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Those links are also down in the description. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.